This is the story of a family where millions drifted between offshore accounts, yachts vanished in the Atlantic, and a single surname became synonymous with power and scandal. 9 children, 12 grandchildren, 2 early family tragedies, and 2 names that haunt every chapter: Robert Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. Ready? Lady Ghislaine, the captain lost at sea. On November 5, 1991, crew members discovered that Robert Maxwell, the media tycoon who owned the Daily Mirror and Pergamon Press, had disappeared from his 180-foot yacht, Lady Ghislaine. His body was found hours later, floating off the Canary Islands. Theories multiplied: a heart attack, an accident, even suicide. But soon investigators uncovered a black hole in his company's pension funds, hundreds of millions of pounds missing. At the time, Maxwell was drowning in debt and lawsuits. And yet, his funeral resembled that of a statesman, held in Jerusalem on the Mount of Olives, attended by Israel's president and prime minister. Whispers spread that Captain Bob had long cooperated with Israeli intelligence. Accident, despair, or elimination? What do you think? Ghislaine Maxwell, the socialite who fell into darkness. Ghislaine, the youngest and most adored daughter, was Oxford-educated, multilingual, and magnetic. In the 1990s, she became a fixture of London and New York society. Her name often appeared alongside Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, and Elon Musk. In 2012, she founded the Terramar Project, a charity supposedly focused on ocean conservation, later suspected of being a shell. After Jeffrey Epstein's arrest, the FBI identified her as his chief recruiter and enabler. In 2020, agents found her hiding in a secluded New Hampshire estate. A year later, she was convicted of child sex trafficking and, in 2022, sentenced to 20 years in prison. Media reports hinted she had secretly married tech entrepreneur Scott Borgerson before her arrest. Was she Epstein's victim or his strategist? The Heirs: Bankruptcy, Trials, and the Fall of an Empire. When the Maxwell empire collapsed, sons Kevin and Ian bore the brunt. Both were arrested in 1992, accused of fraud and theft of pension funds. Kevin became the largest personal bankrupt in British history, owing over £400 million. During one police raid, Kevin's wife, Pandora, reportedly leapt from a window in panic. She survived, later calling her father-in-law a man without conscience. In 1996, the brothers were acquitted, but the family name was ruined. Ian went on to found the counter-extremism think tank Cogent. Kevin re-emerged years later as a corporate consultant. Yet in Britain, they remain the sons of scandal. The Tech Twins: From Newspapers to Silicon Valley. Identical twins, Christine and Isabel turned away from print and dove into the digital revolution. In 1995, they launched Magellan, one of the Internet's first search directories, sold a year later to Excite for roughly $18 million in stock. Christine went on to co-found Chiliad, a big data analytics firm whose software was reportedly used by the FBI after 9/11 for counter-terrorism investigations. Isabel became CEO of ComTouch, now Siren, and later worked with Israeli venture capital projects. The daughters of a fallen press baron had become early architects of the information age. Isabel and the Illusionist: Marriage, Mystery, and Bankruptcy. The personal life of Isabel Maxwell could fill its own series. Her first marriage was to Dale Geraci, son of the scientist Carl Geraci, inventor of the birth control pill. Later, she married Internet entrepreneur David Hayden. Her third partner was Al Secco, a self-styled science popularizer known for optical illusion exhibitions and for hosting the Mindshift conference on Epstein's Island in 2011. In 2015, Secco reportedly died after falling from a cliff in France. No official record of the accident exists, and tabloids floated the idea of a staged death. Shortly after, Isabel declared bankruptcy in the UK. Another chapter of ambitious rise, strange associations, and collapse within the Maxwell story. In 2015, Secco was reported dead after falling from a cliff in France. No definitive proof of the accident ever surfaced. Some tabloids even suggested he faked his death. Afterward, Isabel declared bankruptcy. For the Maxwell clan, it was déjà vu: wealth, collapse, and long silence. Anne and Philip, the quiet branches of the tree. Not all Maxwell offspring chased the spotlight. Anne Maxwell, born 1949, left London in the 1990s to become a psychotherapist, rarely speaking publicly. She cryptically described her name as a trial. She has one daughter who consciously abandoned the Maxwell surname. Philip Maxwell, born 1948, spent years living in Argentina before returning to London, married twice, and dedicated himself to writing and low-key academic work. Though overshadowed by scandal, these siblings formed the silent end of the family tree, a contrast to the flamboyance and ruin of their siblings. Michael and Karine, the first cracks in the dynasty. In 1961, 15-year-old Michael Maxwell was critically injured in a car crash and remained in a coma until his death in 1967. 2 years later, his sister Christine Maxwell, aged 3, died of leukemia. These early tragedies cast a long shadow. Ghislaine was born just 2 days after her brother's crash, and biographers note that from that point her father poured his unspent parental intensity onto her, calling her "my little queen." Some suggest this overfocusing helped channel her into the darker paths she later walked. The Maxwell family tree. Robert Maxwell and his wife, Elizabeth, known to everyone as Betty, had 9 children. Their first son, Michael, was born in 1946 but died tragically young after spending 6 years in a coma from a car accident. Next came Philip, born in 1948, followed by Anne in 1949. In 1950, Betty gave birth to twin daughters, Christine and Isabel, who would later become pioneers in the early days of the Internet. Then came Ian in 1956, Karine in 1957, who sadly passed away from leukemia at just 3 years old, Kevin in 1959, and finally Ghislaine in 1961, the youngest and most famous of them all. Among the next generation, Kevin and his former wife, Pandora Warnford Davis, have 7 children. Christine and her husband, astrophysicist Roger Molina, have 3. Isabel and Anne each have 1 child. That makes at least 12 Maxwell grandchildren, most of whom live quietly and avoid the spotlight. But every so often, the Maxwell name resurfaces, reminding the world that this family's story is far from ordinary. Intelligence, PROMIS software, and the mystery of the Israeli connection. In the weeks following Maxwell's death, investigative journalists uncovered allegations that he had served as a bridge between British, Soviet, and Israeli intelligence agencies. The online case study published by the University of Oxford noted that Maxwell had stolen around £460 million from his employees' pension funds and manipulated stocks through offshore companies, complicating any auditing. Global capitalism. One of the more pervasive conspiracy threads concerns the PROMIS software, originally developed in the US, which was allegedly modified, distributed via offshore Maxwell-controlled firms, and used for espionage. While no definitive proof has ever been publicly produced, the presence of Israeli intelligence at Maxwell's funeral and the appearance of Mossad speculation in media keeps the story alive. The family has repeatedly called it fantasies born of envy.